Oh my fucking God. My heart is racing, you know. My heart is actually racing with this football club. I was just about to go outside and see the Spider-Man. Luckily, there are plenty of showtimes this evening, for it's just come out. The U-Man just will not let me rest. You will not let me rest. Would you just chill for 2 seconds? Just chill for 2 seconds. What is with all this news? Someone asked me in the comment section on Twitter, like, you going live? I said, nah, it's not really necessary. It's not an update. So, you know, on that whole Kai Havertz situation. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to just leave it. And then bang, kaboom, explosion, boyakasha, yeah? A bomba clot. Everything just erupts. Everything just explodes over the canvas of twitter.com. So now they got me out here translating Portuguese. They're saying you must learn Portuguese. It's an absolute madness. According to Record Portugal, this deal is done. This deal is done. It's finished. It's wrapped up. Apparently the wages, because listen, usually I would wait because I don't know Record Portugal. Me and them are not friends like that. I don't know them that well. But Fabrizio has been basically saying over the last couple of days that that Chelsea will continue to keep going back to the table and continue to keep negotiating with Ugarte's, you know, people, because we have gone in very low, let's be honest, very low on the wages. And we needed to rectify that because there was a massive gap between ourselves and PSG. And it seems like we've rectified such gap. Now, I've translated what has been said in that article from Record Portugal. So I'm going to read it out to you guys and we're going to discuss the deal, because it was clear as of yesterday that Ugarte's preferred option was to come to the Premier League, was to come to Chelsea over PSG, and it was all about the wages. It was always about the finances. And obviously, we know there's a release clause of £52 million, 60 million euros, and both clubs were trying to do this deal in installments. And we were potentially going to offer someone in a swap deal. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think it was a Datro Fofana / Andre Santos swap they were looking at, maybe. But like I said, I think it's just going to be a straight purchase, and then maybe we'll do them a favor down the line. So let's go through this report. The deal is closed, and Ugarte will be a Chelsea player. This is from Record Portugal, with 2 proposals in hand from PSG and the Blues. The 22-year-old midfielder chose to continue his career at the English, or in the English Premier League, which beats the release clause of 60 million euros, offering another 5 upon goals. So it seems like we've gone just a slight bit above the release clause in installments, and I guess the installments, we'll see what is really each installment. What is, you know, Premier League winners? I don't know. Is it realistic goals what we're going for with these installments? Do you have to win the FIFA World Cup? I don't know. Are we pulling one all over their eyes? We'll have to see. After 2 intense weeks with many meetings between George Mendes, his representatives, and I think he's got another agent as well, Georgie Chilean, as well as elements from both PSG and Chelsea. The Uruguayan international opted for the dream of heading to the Premier League, where despite not having Europe next season, you'll have the chance to play against anyone you want, top teams like Manchester City. PSG, which also had beaten the 60 million clause, even offered Ugarte more than us in terms of salary, in order of €5 million per year. But it is in England where the midfielder signed. Let's see, will continue his career. Yeah, same thing, just being basically repeated. And he will earn a salary of 3.5 million euros per season. So we are still under what PSG offered. 3.5 million euros per season is what is being touted as the fee that we're going to be paying wage-wise. Whatever that breaks up to weekly, we'll go through that in a second. But a lot less than PSG. The deal has a lot more details, so don't leave there, because our newspaper will give them all. Ugarte says goodbye to the Lions after 2 seasons where he played 85 games for the Green and Whites, winning the Allianz Cup in 2021. So that is that in terms of Ugarte, it seems, according to Record Portugal, who basically is the, you know, we've been following them the whole time, really, and other journalists have been seemingly picking up the pieces. Crazy stuff, guys. Absolutely insane. Boom! PYS says, Record good with Ugarte and Enzo. yeah, I think it was Record Portugal, wasn't it? That was kind of breaking the news on Enzo Fernandez throughout the whole January transfer window. So we've seen this before from them. And listen, if anyone's going to know what's going on in Portugal, it's going to be a Portuguese outlet for sure. Big up everybody in the building. Unbelievable. I'm not going to lie. Obviously a Pochettino target by reports again. It seems like he wanted him. It was definitely a preference for him to bring in a 6, to bring in a destroyer, to bring in a midfielder, a holding midfielder. And we've done that. And that's the first. Obviously, we wait for confirmation from the club. We want this absolutely wrapped up before we get ahead of ourselves. But on record, no pun intended, it seems like it's done. I'm going to keep going through tweets and whatnot. But yeah, he's agreed to this new wage offer and will be a Chelsea player. Felix is also putting out as well. I'm excited. Purely because we've actually attacked the position that we have neglected for years upon years upon years. Now, have we probably as a community seen enough of him to say, hang our hat on this guy and say he's going to be absolutely perfect? Probably not, right? Probably not. I've seen him a handful of times. I saw him against Arsenal in the Europa League there, a couple knockout games, and Tottenham as well. Champions League, they played each other a couple of games in the group stage. But the Arsenal performances were very impressive. Statistically, people were putting out stats for his performances against Benfica at the end of the season. They looked incredible as well. And the stats are quite impressive from him when you go through them. But we'll have to see him with our own eyes before we really make those conclusions. But I'm excited to see this position finally upgraded because there hasn't been balance in this area for a while. And even if you think there was balance, one thing I think we can all agree on is there was no depth. There was no depth. It was basically Jorginho or bust in this 6th position for many years. And give or take, you could throw in somebody that's not meant to be there, whether it's a Loftus-Cheek at home to Bournemouth or it's a Kante sparingly, you might put in the 6 or whoever. There was never anybody to even help Jorginho in this position when he was here before he left for Arsenal. So I'm just happy to know that we've signed somebody defensive-minded. Now, some people's reservations are that he's not really going to play in that 6. He's not a player that's, basically going to receive or play a lot of passes in that area, or he's not going to be maybe a controller for us, etc. I'm not sure. It seems like a 4-2-3-1 that we're going with next season. So he'll be paired with someone, whether that's Caicedo or it's Enzo. Obviously, we'd have to get that deal done for it to be the case. But I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him to know exactly what he's going to be like on the ball, receiving in tight positions under a press. Jorginho was quite special in that aspect. It's going to be difficult for anyone to be level with him in terms of receiving the ball under a press and kind of stringing together those triangles and helping us build out in the first phase. But he's young. He is young, and he can be developed. He can be improved. And I think the key is for us is that we remember that not every player that has been signed, even by Man City, has been the finished article. They've not always been, at the peak of their power immediately when signed. There's a lot of coaching that has to go on here. There's a lot of developing, and there's a lot of learning to do. And there's no reason why Ugarte maybe can't learn. Obviously, people will have, their preferences. Some people are preferring of the Declan Rices and others, but listen, this is what the club have gone for. This is what Pochettino wants. So there's nothing we can do about that apart from, back the player. It's going to be interesting to see how he does. Ugarte seems more like a Xhaka than a Party in play style. He is press resistant. You didn't notice? No, I did notice against Arsenal he's press resistant, but I don't want to judge it off one game. Like I said, no one's watching him week in, week out in the Portuguese league. It's great for him to be press resistant against Arsenal, to play very well in that one game in the Europa League. But I need to be watching, 10, 15, 20 games, full 90 minutes before I'm saying he's absolutely going to give you this and this and this. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I am excited about the player because from the surface level, at least, he does look very, very good. And he's young. I think he's 22 years old, isn't he? We're going to talk about age and midfield in just a second, actually, because there are some interesting points to talk about in terms of midfield and the way we're building it, which is not all positive, to be honest, if you want balance. But listen, it's certainly going to be interesting nonetheless. There's more coming out today as well. It wasn't just him that was kind of spoken on. It was also Hazard has been released by Real Madrid. We're going to talk about that in this hour as well as Kai Havertz. It seems that Fabrizio's confirmed once again, just kind of doubling up on what was said yesterday, but Real Madrid are going to make a move for Kai Havertz. Now, one thing that I didn't really mention too much in my video yesterday was that obviously Harry Kane has been linked with Real Madrid, and I'm sure that's their preference. But if they're going for Mbappe in 2024, and this is what I'm kind of hanging on to, but we're going to talk about this. I'm going to run a poll, and it's going to be a very good poll. that I want you all to vote in, because it is a tongue. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. It's a little bit of a problematic situation that could unfold if these things occur that we're not really thinking about. But I'm going to ask you the question, and then you're going to be like, "Oh shit, I didn't think about that." So I'm going to mention it, and then you're going to be like, oh, "Okay, maybe this is maybe there's a problem here." So yeah, that's on Kai Havertz, and we're still waiting for an opening bid. There's no contact yet, but it seems like Real Madrid are definitely going to make a move. Their season is done. They're not in any finals coming up. So I'm hoping to see some sort of concrete offer there on the table from them. How much will we be getting? How much will we be getting close to what we paid from Bayer Leverkusen? People often forget that Real Madrid were interested in Kai Havertz before we got him. Remember when he was at Bayer Leverkusen, before lockdown, even when he was obviously moved to a striker and he started banging in goals in that lockdown period, Real Madrid were interested, but they couldn't afford the deal because obviously COVID and, you know, the lockdown and whatnot. There was some financial hits for clubs and whatnot. And we kind of capitalized on that. And we got Kai Havertz ahead of a lot of other clubs that were looking at him. I think Bayern Munich as well. So if anything, they're just renewing their interest. So they've been a fan for a while, and obviously we played them 6 times in the last 3 years in knockout competition, Champions League. So they've obviously been able to see him up close again. So I do believe the report. I did believe it as soon as it went out from Spanish reports on, was it Thursday night? It broke. I went straight on and recorded because I just knew it was true. But then it came out on Friday, of course, Fabrizio started talking about it even more. So we'll see what fee they put out there. Now, apparently Fabrizio has tweeted. So I'm gonna go and load that up. Let's see what he said. You guys are letting me know Fabrizio has said something. Let's see what he's saying. What's it related to? Oh, there we go. 3 minutes ago, Fabrizio says Chelsea are advancing on Ugarte deal and very confident negotiation not closed or completed yet. So he's just going up against record Portugal real quick. There are still details left to get sealed. Chelsea cautious on Ugarte deal until they arrive to document stage after Enzo saga with Benfica in January. That is fair, that last part. We did all think Enzo was done, and then it wasn't, and then it was done, and then it wasn't. And I had to sit here on deadline day for 6 hours until the very last minute, the very last second of deadline day to know that deal in the end did get done. We was there tracking planes and all sorts of madness. So yeah, it was crazy. It's not done according to Fab. It's done according to Record Portugal. Maybe Record Portugal are just going to be ahead of the curve. Listen, we'll see what happens. But, you know, at the end of the day, Fab might just want to be cautious. I would want to be cautious too if I had about 10 million people following me. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it looks like as if it's on the way to being done if it's not already. So crazy. Hazard could retire as well. He could retire after being released from Real Madrid today. So there's some Chelsea fans that have lost their minds on Twitter. I know they're doing it just because they are weak, but they accept and they admit that they're weak, and they're not thinking logically. They're just thinking in an emotional way that they want to bring back Eden Hazard. And I'm gonna once again talk about that and address that just in case people need reminding. And I know some people in the chat do, because I can see it already. So yeah. Let's see. So that is that. Now, 3.5 million euros spread over the cost of what? 52 weeks is 67,000 per week. So that's kind of mad. I just want to kind of do that again and calculate it just to yeah, it's 52,300 is apparently what we've offered in relation to his wages, and that's in euros. So you put that in pounds, and Ugarte is set to be earning £57,970 roughly per week at Chelsea, according to that report, according to that deal. So that's pretty fair, humble wage for sure. And obviously the race to get the wage bill down continues. So interesting. Very interesting. It's tax-free. Let's see, 3.5 million per year, decent wage. Let's see what people are saying in the comments. Yeah, 14.9 million. Excuse me. Yeah, 14.9 million. So it's going to be interesting. All right, cool. Well, according to Record Portugal, it is done. They have been, you know, the leaders in kind of reporting from Portugal when they spoke on Enzo in January as well. So we'll just have to see. But they're the ones reporting that it's done. Fabrizio is saying that it's close, but it's not done completely. Maybe he's playing it safe. Maybe he doesn't have all the info. who knows? Somebody saying here, record are ahead of Fabrizio most of the time. Record part has been ahead of Fab during this saga. So a lot of people saying record Portugal are ahead of Fabrizio on this one. Record again part are ahead of Fabrizio. Let's see. Cool, perfect. And Ugarte seems more. Yeah, we've already read that one out. Big up, appreciate it. Okay, cool. Let's see what else is being said in here. So, yes, I did see this as well. So this is my thing on Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz was not purchased to be a squad player. He was purchased for £70+ million, and he was spoken of as the mix between Ozil and Thomas Muller, and a generational talent that could play in 3 or 4 positions, that he has even been quoted saying he could also play across the attack and that he can play in multiple positions as well, that he's very versatile, etc. He was not purchased to be a squad player. And for me, cost effective wise, it doesn't make sense to have him as a squad player. I don't think he's not a squad player for me. We have Nkunku. Listen, if you was to use him as a backup 10, fine. But I think for me, there's other players that you could use in that role. Kai Havertz, if he's not going to be a starter, then you would want to get a lot of money in for him, because it looks like Real Madrid could potentially pay that. I always say this: you don't get a CEO to flip the burgers. If you buy somebody, or you negotiate a contract, or you approach somebody to be the leader or the head of department in your company, or the CEO in your company, or whatever job description you've given them, you're building the team around them or whatever. You then don't say, okay, now you're going to flip the burgers and you're going to be, one of the regular employees, when really that was never your job title, that was never your role. For me personally, you've got Carney's, you've got Andre Santos's, you've got, my brother Quesadilla, do you know what I'm saying, from Reading, and the under-20 Italian captain. If you guys are truly as hyped on these players as the TL would suggest, then you're going to need to give them opportunities. Not all of them at the same time. Somebody might have to go out on loan, but you cannot just clog and cluster the squad up with expensive squad players like Kepa and like Havertz, who are meant to be starters in terms of what they earn and what they're meant to be producing and what we paid for them to be in terms of their market value, and then block out the young talents that didn't cost you even a third and potentially could actually be better players. So for me, it doesn't make any sense. If Real Madrid are interested, I'm willing to cash in on that 100%, more than you can believe. So yeah. All right, cool. Speaking about burgers and Hazard, yes, it was not a coincidence, because we do need to talk about Hazard as well, because my brother, unfortunately, has been released. And a lot of people on the TL, they'll think that I am very harsh with Hazard, and I am very harsh. And I think if this season hasn't scarred you enough to be rational, try and be as rational as you can with what you want. And some people are just joking around, and that's fair. But if you're actually being serious and you want Hazard back, then for me, this season did not shake you to your core as much as it needed to. You needed a bigger shake-up. Maybe you needed relegation to humble you, to make you serious, because we were shit. We were awful. And the last thing we need now is to overdo it in terms of signings by signing more players than we need, out of sentiment and out of emotional attachment, right? This is a player that is injury prone. This is a player that has not really delivered on the big stage for years. This is a player that is considering retirement. And unless he's going to, actually, there is no unless. There is no unless, okay? For me, he needs to be like in the MLS. That's where the next move is, or Saudi. Let's be honest. People are talking to me about a squad role. People are talking to me about Drogba when he came back and won the title. There is no long-term, there is no short-term, there is no medium-term gain of having Hazard come back to Chelsea. And that's just as honest as it is. That's as clear-cut and as serious as it can get, really. There is no advantage to bringing him back, because you're not going to get the level you think you're going to get. So you're going to be disappointed with performances. And you're also going to take valuable time away from a young player who could actually develop under Poch, which is exactly what Pochettino's here for, as well as we need to cover the yards and the distance covered and the pressing, which people are throwing out the window for Eden Hazard. That is not even going to give you on the ball what he once did to quantify or legislate for the lack of off the ball contribution. You are now going to potentially stifle another young player that could have actually been something for an emotional attachment that is going nowhere. So I'm not going to break it down for too long. I know people are crying right now because they don't want to hear this. And they're like, please just shut up and let me enjoy my moment. Yes, I am doing this because Todd Bowie is active on Twitter. I am doing this because Paul Winstanley has a Twitter account. I'm doing this because they've been in Twitter spaces and they've liked tweets they shouldn't have liked. My point is that I don't need them being manipulated by such nonsense, okay? Anything can happen. Anything can happen. And I'm not running a risk. I'm not running the risk of you guys sobbing into your tissues about Eden Hazard and what could have been, or if he'd stayed or whatnot, and we can revive him and he shouldn't retire in this way. And CFC mods having a little cry on the TL. Yes, my brother, I'm coming for you. I'm not having it because these owners are actually online. If this was Roman, I wouldn't even care because they don't know what Twitter is. So they wouldn't even know what you're saying. But these lot are actually active and they might actually think it's a good idea. When was the last time this fan base called for an emotional get out clause to try and salvage our season? Oh, it was Frank Lampard, and look how shit that went. Do you know what I want for Eden Hazard? I want him to not come here and, find out that the Premier League is even more physical, more powerful than it was when he was here and get injured again. I would actually like Eden Hazard to just go get himself a burger, go and enjoy life and just rest. So I can watch comps, so I can, cherish what he was and just peace. I just want peace. I don't want violence, guys. Okay, I come in peace. But you man are going to make me violent with some of the nonsense I'm hearing. So, yeah, I don't want another injury for Hazard. I don't want another, I don't want any of that. Hazard, it's time to relax. It's time to relax, to either drop off to a league where he will be playing at walking pace and just ball out, go where Ronaldo's gone, or just hang it up. I'd actually prefer probably the Saudi or maybe one of those options. Because at least then we can get a couple more comps out of him. But if you think I'm bringing this man to the Premier League, if you think the Premier League is where he should be next after all of these injuries in La Liga, then you have lost your damn mind. And you are selfish. That's right. You're selfish because you want what's best for your own emotions, your own little comforting. You need what's it called? You need what happens when you're at the end of a relationship, you can't get over your ex. I can't think of the word, but you guys will because you're in that mode. But basically, you're being selfish, and yeah, it's foolishness. So just stop. Not therapy. You need like answers. You need answers. You need closure. Thank you. You lot need closure. That's what you need. You need closure. A lot of you need closure because of the way he left, and he was kind of crying, and or not crying, but he was basically saying, this is the end, and I've got to go, and it was tough. It was tough. So a lot of you are looking for closure, and unfortunately, you're never gonna get it. So just allow it, all right? Just move on. So yeah, for me, this is not the day. This is not the day for that. So yeah, let's see what else is being tweeted because there's more going out. But he might retire. The fact that he's considering retirement speaks volumes. It really does speak volumes. I'm not going to lie to you. But anyway, apparently there's more tweets going out. So let's see what's going on. I'm going to be on for an hour, guys, because I do need to catch the Spider-Man. But I thought, we must be here. There's a tweet from Bruno. I don't know who this guy is, to be honest, but he's a journalist from Portugal. And he's also tweeted to say that Ugarte is joining Chelsea. And he's confirmed it. Bruno Andrea. Bruno Andrea, the journalist from Portugal, Lisbon. So I guess he has ties and communications with Sporting. He has come out and confirmed as well that this deal is done and he's joining Chelsea. To be honest, I'm not really worried about this one biting me in the bollocks. That's why I've gone live, because there's a lot of reports yesterday that he prefers Chelsea over PSG, and I can understand if he really wants to play Premier League and he's not too bothered on the short-term Champions League miss. And also, obviously, Pochettino really wants him, so I assume the club are going to take that seriously and actually move ahead. So I do think this is going to get done. Otherwise, I would not have risked it because I would have looked incredibly stupid if this doesn't come off. But yeah, I think it will happen, to be honest. But yeah, let's see what happens. We aren't, I think, no, it's installments. And I think it goes apparently slightly above the release clause, but it is an installment. So, not all up front, which is probably better for us. I think when you pay a release clause up front, if you pay it up front, it goes straight onto FFP, it goes straight onto the books. When you pay it, I think in installments, of course, then it doesn't. I think that's the case. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. So that might even be why we're doing it this way as well. Because when you pay a transfer fee, I think it's different to when you pay a release clause. When you pay a release clause, you have to put that all onto the books straight away. Whereas if you pay a transfer fee, it's not the same. So, all right, we move. Okay, let's see what else was being discussed. Of course, as well, Kai Havertz was being discussed, wasn't he? Seems like he's nearing a move. Looks like he's nearing a move to Real Madrid, or at least Real Madrid need to make an approach. They're interested. So let's see. What was the recent tweet from Fabrizio on that situation? Was it Fabrizio that tweeted? Who was it that tweeted? I think it was, or maybe POIS maybe quoted on it or something. Somebody was tweeting on Hazard not too long ago. Also that came out from Fabrizio 51 minutes ago was that Mason Mount is prepared to say yes to Manchester United. It's now down to the clubs to talk about a fee, with Chelsea still wanting 70 million. Pochettino is still hoping he stays. Now, Fabrizio said that the release, well, the personal terms was not agreed. Few people behind the scenes in my ear telling me as well it's not agreed. But then Telegraph said that personal terms are agreed. So listen, whether they are or they aren't, I think if they aren't, factually, if they're not, then I think they will be. I think it's clear that, you know, according to Fabrizio, he is coming back up and said, yeah, they can agree personal terms. They will agree personal terms if they haven't already, according to Telegraph. So conflicting reports. But listen, if we don't agree something with Mason Mount, then he more than likely will become a Manchester United player. If we agree a fee, which Man United have thrown around cash before, I don't see why they wouldn't, unless the ownership situation was to be a stumbling block. I'm kind of confused about that, because they didn't have much money in the summer. Sorry, in January. Didn't have much money in January. And then suddenly, next thing you know, they're going for Mason Mount. So if there was an ownership situation that was unconcluded or unresolved, the last thing I would expect from Manchester United is to then put down big money for players. But maybe something's going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. I don't know. But it's an interesting one. The clear out is going well. So it's going. The clear out is going. That's for sure. The clear out is going. There's a lot of players, man, apparently on their way out, and I'm kind of shocked. I'm not gonna lie. I'm shocked. I wasn't expecting it to be this easy. I knew that players were gonna have interest from clubs, and I knew we weren't screwed in terms of FFP. Really, to be honest, in terms of bringing in money, but I didn't expect some of these names to be on the list. These weren't the players I expected, but these are the players that have value and market value and have interest. Yes, it was breaking an hour ago that Real Madrid are going for Kai Havertz. So that is regardless of Benzema. Now, again, Benzema has been a confusing situation, because I thought it sounded like, according to the internet, that he was leaving to go to Saudi. There was a Saudi offer, and there was all this press conference talk coming from Madrid Extra that he would potentially be announcing that he's leaving. And then he comes out publicly and says that the internet is not reality and that he's staying. Or Carlo Ancelotti comes and backs that up now and says that he's staying as well. But the Kai Havertz deal is separate to Benzema regardless, and there is interest regardless of what happens with Benzema. So the way I kind of spoke about it yesterday was that I think it's as a striker option. They want him to kind of back up Benzema or rotate with Benzema, just to give them another option in terms of legs, because we saw in that Champions League game, Benzema was a bit rusty, and he probably needs a bit of a helping hand until Mbappe potentially arrives in 2024 if they go for him. So I think it could work. Like, I was debating it back and forth on the TL today. I can understand how Havertz would actually do okay or do pretty well at Real Madrid if he's going to play as an actual false nine, not how he plays for us, which is a striker, but still drops deep occasionally. If he's actually a false nine who doesn't really need to score a truckload of goals, and his main job is to create space for Vinicius and for Rodrigo as inside forwards, basically your Firmino to your Mane and Salah, then I could understand how that would work, because in that league, especially, I think not so physical, not so, you know, absolutely having to constantly ride challenges and shield the ball to your heart's content. I think in a league that is more, you know, it's more suited to his style, I actually think he could do that job fairly well. I wouldn't be surprised if he does well. But just because I think could do well, it doesn't mean that I actually kind of want to keep him. I think he's one of those players that I think we've given him enough time. I'm not here to say that it's all been his fault. I think there's got to be some balance on Kai Havertz. Yes, his statistics haven't been great. I think he's never hit double digits in the league. This season, he has 1 assist, I think. But I always chalk off assists a bit with this team because no one can finish. So everybody would get more assists if people could shoot, but no one can shoot, so nobody gets assists. But I think with him, listen, he's obviously played up front. I know the deal's not done in terms of Kai. But yeah, he's obviously played up front because of Aubameyang and because of Lukaku not being able to fulfill the duties that pressing, aggressive, attacking managers would like them to, which doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all. They're not the most multifaceted forwards you'll ever see. And Kai's kind of been thrown into that striker role due to some incompetence from our recruitment and also some downing of tools from certain individual. But even if you're playing up front, I have looked at the numbers and I've watched the games and I am still disappointed. I'm not going to lie, because he did tell us, and maybe we should stop listening to players, some of them anyway, that tell us they can play here and do this and do that, and then they can't. But he did tell us he could play in this position. And there's a lot of people that saying, yes, he needs to move back to 10. And if he plays 10, everything's going to be fine. And if he plays 10 and you put a proper striker in front of him, everything's going to be A-okay. And I admit we have not actually seen him with a striker consistently. It's not been the most stable structure around him. We've not actually had a cohesive attack. We have had changes of managements and systems. And I hear all of that. But I actually don't believe that even if you put him in the 10, you're going to get this title level winning Premier League player. And I just don't see it. I don't think mentally he's cutthroat enough to be in this league. I think he's a little bit of a glider. He's a little bit of a occasional player who, if the lights are on and Champions League night, big occasion, he actually seems to thrive a little bit more than the trips away from home to Burnley or Brentford. So I don't know what it is about him. I don't know what it is, if it's the Skittles that have got him moving mad or it's the donkeys at the farm. I don't know. But he's just something about him that's just not locked in. He actually does work quite hard off the ball, but there's something about him that's just every week, the week-to-week graft just doesn't seem to be mentally checked in all the time. It just seems to be a little bit more blasé and a little bit more effortless. But listen, if you're going to be like that, you need to be untouchable. You need to be like Hazard level at Chelsea, which you're not. So I think for him, it's best that he moves on. So I think that's a great deal for us to get done. And Nkuku's going to be here anyway, so it's not like he's going to be a consistent starter in that position. So I think a Kai Havertz that's now not an inconsistent starter, not a key part of the project, and has already struggled in this league or struggled at Chelsea. I don't think that's all a good combination for a impact player off the bench. I can't see that personally. Santos looked good in this under-20 World Cup. I can't lie. Yeah, listen, we are the under-20 World Cup. Let's be honest. The under-20 World Cup is us. We are them. We have a ridiculous amount of talent in the under-20 World Cup, whether it's Ecuador or it's America or it's Italy or it's England. The only negative thing I'm going to say on this stream, and this is where I do agree with Chessiao, we speak a lot on TL, is that, and I've said this to you guys before, young players fighting against young players for the same positions very, very rarely works out. Now, if you're going to go through Chelsea's potential 6-man midfield next season or the season after, we're going to go Ugarte because it looks like it's done. We're going to go Caicedo because there's reports and there's rumors and I think everybody wants him. We're going to go Enzo Fernandez. So the ages of those 3 players are as follows, right? Caicedo is 21 years of age, right? The next decade you're looking at. Enzo Fernandez, age-wise, 22 years old. And Ugarte, I think, is the same at 22 years old. That's the next decade. You would assume those 3 players will be patrolling those positions, unless one of them flops, which would not be a good thing. Carney, age is, I believe it's 19, is it? Let's take a look. Carney's age is 19, yes. Andre Santos' age, see where I'm going with this, because I've said this to you guys on this channel before. Andre Santos' age is 19, And my brother Quesadilla, his age is 20. Do you see the problem here? Do you see the problem here? There ain't a help in hell. There ain't a hope in hell. Not a singular hope in heaven that these 6 are going to keep their places in this squad for the next even 2-3 years. I will predict and tell you now that one of those 3 under-20s aren't making it here. And one of those 3 under-20s is leaving by the year 2025. I'm just going to tell you that now. That's my prediction, because there is just no room. There is no room for these guys to, you know, really, really push it in terms of a long-term first team place. There's just so much competition. And you tend to need experience and youth. You tend to need kind of like a handing of the baton, so to speak. Basically a Modric to a Camavinga, or a Tchouameni to a Casemiro, or an Azpilicueta to a James, or a Tammy to a Giroud. There's so many examples of Foden to a David Silva. If there is a handing of the baton, a handing of the responsibilities, it's a lot easier for a young player to actually believe that there is a first team consistent spot available to them if they develop. And developing needs game time. And it's going to be very difficult for that to work. It's almost impossible for that to work. So, yeah, I think as much as those guys are obviously getting a lot of excitement for a lot of people, it's not going to end the way people think it is. But yeah, it's a difficult one. So for me personally, I think we are potentially stat padding young players in that area. I think it's a shame for Carney. It's a shame for Santos that potentially we were so excited about their arrivals, and then how many opportunities are they really going to get over the next few years? It's pretty unlikely, you know, to be honest. So yeah, it's a lot of stat padding going on there. Now, if we make a profit on them, then I guess business is business, and it is what it is, as you're saying in the comments. But we do need to stop doing this because we do kill a lot of careers, and it's a shame. We do need to have a bit of balance. We do have to have a bit of balance. No more flashy strikers. I like Osimhen, but I think Vlahovic would suit the Premier League better, and Poch have his Kane at Chelsea. There's been a lot of comparisons on Vlahovic. Obviously, his all-round game is nowhere near what Harry Kane's all-round game is right now. But then people say, obviously, Harry Kane wasn't always like that, and he was developed and he was coached, etc., which he was. You watch him at Millwall and at Leyton Orient, you definitely will not see what you saw over the last few years. And I hear that. I do understand that. I think with Vlahovic, he is definitely not an all-rounder right now. Could he become that? I guess time will tell. You know, it depends on the coaching. He is a good finisher. He does have good ball striking technique, which is something that I look at, and we all look out for strikers. You know, we've seen some scuffy finishes over the last couple of years at our football club. We've been struggling in that regard. So yeah, hopefully whoever it is, it actually works out. But I have got PTSD with spending too much money on a striker position, as does Drogba, who said that quite clearly on All You Can Eat Chelsea. I do want a new striker because I think that we don't have any choice. Broya's back from an ACL, and Datro for me probably needs to go out on loan. Even if he stays, I wouldn't want to shoulder the burden on him for goals at all in his first full season. So I think we need a striker if we actually want to seriously qualify for Champions League next year. But yeah, it's who is that person? We still need to do that video. Haven't done it as of yet. But we'll get there. Yes. And you know what it is as well, is like, I don't want to say, because it's early in the window, and I do continue to say that there's no point getting angry. Some people are getting angry already on the 1st of June with what's happening, because we don't know the overall plan, right? We don't know what the overall plan is in terms of who's going to really leave and who's going to come in, because it's not done. It's not done, so we can't judge it until it's done. It's only speculation. But if we are the club that are going to, because what they said, and I'm just really saying, and I'm just really trying to keep things consistent with the ownership. They said that they want to bring in young players, and they want to cut out the middleman, and they want to sign players at a cut price, and they want to, you know, kind of get ahead of the curve, which is what we've been doing by signing these young players. But the integration of these young players and the plan for these young players, and doesn't mean they have to start here, but they can go out on loan. If the multi-club model was already in place, that would help. But the point is that there's absolutely no point, And I want to say this again. There's no point in signing Carney for 20 million, signing Quesadillas for 20 million, if you are not going to integrate or have a plan in terms of a loan deal that is actually beneficial to the development, because you won't even make a profit, by the way. If you don't do it correctly, you're not even going to make a profit. I've seen plenty of talented youngsters at this club over the years that have had to just leave on a free transfer or have just left for pennies because we haven't actually integrated and developed correctly. There's no point taking or looking at what Brighton do, but not looking at what Brighton do completely, which is actually integration. If you don't integrate, there is no development, there is no game time, there is no learning curves, there is no nothing. It's just, you're just signing players and then they're here now, and then what now? And then just expecting them to just miraculously be better without actually being given any trust or any patience or any time to play. So it's very pointless. So for me, I'd rather not waste 40, 50, 60 million every single year on these wonder kids if you're not planning on using these wonder kids, and just praying to God that you make profit on these wonder kids, because that is something that Roman did as well. And it did work a little bit, I guess you could say. Sometimes we did make our monies, and yeah, sometimes we did, you know, kind of soullessly bring in and ship out and bring in and ship out these young players. We killed so many careers. It's incredible. But it's not a good way to go about things. I do think it's a little bit, I'm not going to say immoral, but I do. Like I said, I've said this before, if I didn't support us, I wouldn't like us at times, because that is not the aim of the game, you know, to do it on purpose anyway. If you're going to, you know, some fall through the crack, or there's attitude problems or whatever, you know, someone just doesn't make it on the off chance, then fair enough. But if that's your actual model to continuously ruin careers potentially, that is not a good way to go about things. And by the way, if young players start to see that, we will get to a point where young players don't want to come to us, because they can actually see quite clearly what we're doing, and it's very clear it's a scam. You know, and we're lying to them, right? We're telling them that there's chances and that there's a plan for you and there's an integration, and then there is nothing to show for it. There's no evidence. Players talk, they have group chats, and next thing you know, people start to reject us. We're like, why are people rejecting us? Because people are not stupid. Stop bigging up players that we don't know of, Matisse. Whenever you get overconfident like this, it tends to go worse. Big up, by the way. Have you been listening to me? Or have you see, you may have joined late. I didn't big up anybody over the top. I said statistically it looks good. Pochettino wants him, and I'm glad we're sorting out the position. But I've also said I haven't watched him enough to tell you that it's a rubber stamp success of a deal. I'm just intrigued and looking forward to seeing the player, and I'm happy that we're getting the position taken care of. That's all I've said. That's all I've said. Let's see. What else is being said? Let's see what else is being said here. Transfers are only excitement lately. I mean, yeah, I'm more, like I said, I'm more excited for the clear out than I am for whoever comes in. I think in terms of players coming in, we only need about 3-4 players. You could probably say 4 if you're going to say 2 midfielders, because a lot of people are going to leave. Goalkeeper, striker. After that, don't really want to see much more than that, to be honest. But we definitely need to clear out minimum 10 to 12, 15. So that's where the real excitement comes from, is players actually leaving. So let's see. Yes, Nkuku's playing at the moment. He is. The multi-club model can help develop these young stars. It can, but they're not here. You know, it's not in place yet, which is a problem. You know, because and we've done this before where we've done things backwards, right? So before you spend a lot of money, in hindsight, you'd want to have a recruitment team, but we spent a lot of money and then we got the recruitment team. And in hindsight, well, just logically, you'd rather have the multi-club model in before you bring in all of the wonder kids that need loan deals or need developing. But we've done the opposite. So yeah, time waits for no one. And until that is in place, we are in a little bit of a predicament, because are they going to play next season? Or if they're going out on loan, we're not putting them in the model. We're just putting them anywhere. And therefore, there's risk. There's a lot of risk. They might not play. They might not play the same style as us. They might not get good coaching. We saw what happened with Gilmore when he went out on loan to Norwich. That could easily happen to any of these young players if they get a loan deal and it's the wrong one. Not only are you killing the confidence, but you're stifling the development and you're stagnating. So that could easily happen with any of these young players. So that's something that is out of our control without the multi-club model. Mason Mount and Kai can give us a cool 120 million to buy a striker, preferably Kane, if not Vlahovic. I would love Kane. Kane is the one player that no one would listen. Then I'd be gassed. I'm not really I'm excited because we're getting somebody that Pochettino wants, and we're getting somebody that statistically looks good, and that on the couple of occasions I've watched him looks good. And I'm more excited actually for Enzo than anyone else. I'm excited for Enzo Fernandez because finally Enzo Fernandez hopefully is not going to be playing as a deep midfielder, or at least he's going to have somebody next to him that balances him out. So I'm excited for him because I've been saying from the get-go, even though he might have played deep for Argentina, that Enzo is not a 6. Enzo is not a 6, and Enzo should not be playing as a deep midfielder. If you want to get the best out of Enzo, you need to give him some freedom. You need to let him get into the final third and let him progress through the first, second, third phase on his own without being anchored to the 6th position or to the defensive midfield position. So I'm more excited for him. I'm more excited for the balance of the midfield, and I'm more excited for Poch. And yeah, like I said, we don't know him that well, but I'm intrigued to see how he will play and how he'll develop. And we'll see what happens. But I actually do like the players, or the type of players we've been going for since the recruitment team came in. You look at Badia Shil, you look at Madueke, even though there were some slight concerns about injury. Mudryk, I just chalk off this season and don't judge him too harshly because there's been a million factors as to why it's gone a bit left for everyone, including him. Anyone that came in January, I'm not going to judge in mid-season coming into this mess. So I think compared to what we did in the summer, it has looked good. But obviously, we have to actually put that to paper now with Poch. No more flashy strikers. We've gone with that one already. Listen, Poch would love to bring in Harry Kane, I'm sure, but that's just not going to happen under Daniel Levy. The only way that happens is it happens on a free transfer next summer, and Harry Kane actually signs off on becoming the enemy of Tottenham, all right, and doesn't want his statue and all of that, because Harry Kane spent a lot of time being loyal to a club in Tottenham, and it would be kind of crazy to throw all of that away and go the opposite way and now become the enemy at Chelsea when there's other options. So I would be shocked, and I just don't even want to even compute that will happen, even though I'd love to see Harry Kane, and I would then genuinely be excited. If you want real excitement, yeah, if Harry Kane was signing and that was confirmed, I would be doing cartwheels and I would be jumping out windows, and it would be a vlog. It wouldn't even be a sit-down stream. It'd be a vlog. But it's not going to happen. Big up. So do you still want Caicedo or no? For me, I think it depends on who leaves, right? It depends on who leaves. I think I want to see Andre Santos, if he's going to come back on, if that work permanent gets sorted and whatever, then I wouldn't mind him going on loan. I think with all of these guys, Carney, we saw flashes, right? He looked good, but there's still more to develop and more to teach. Same applies and will apply to Andre Santos. Same will apply to my brother Quesadilla. Now, I don't expect all 3 of them to stay. I think for the Italian under-20 captain, I think another loan, especially maybe to a Premier League club, if they're willing to play him, would be good, because I'd like to see him in the Premier League after having that loan at Reading. Carney, I think at this point you'd keep, and this is why I'm not really pushing on. I've seen people talk about Dybala is extremely injury prone. I've seen people talk about loads of different, players that could back up in Cuckoo. To be honest, I think we've had enough of that. I think we've had enough. If we bring in a Caicedo and we bring in an Ugarte, which would, Caicedo would be a very good signing, especially with Kante's injury issues. He'd have to be released. There's no need to keep Kante, in my opinion. With his injury again, and I've been saying this for quite a long time, but he's injured again. You're just not going to get the minutes from this guy next season. We've been trying this over and over again, and every single year we keep getting humbled. Basically need to just learn our lesson now and actually see this for what it is, as sad as it is. If you get Caicedo and you get an Ugarte and you have an Enzo, which is doable, then the fourth spot for me has got to be one of those young players, right? And then another one of those young players can back up in Cuckoo. Now, Some people are going to say quality, strength in depth and all these things, but I do trust in the recruitment of some of these youngsters. I want to see them. And it really annoys me when you look at a Brighton and you see an Enciso explode out of nowhere from Paraguay and he's scoring long shots against us. But then when it comes to us, we don't have the confidence in our own recruitment for young players that probably would have gone to Brighton and probably would have exploded, and then we would pay 60, 70 million for them, right? So if we're willing to pay 60, 70 million for talents like Caicedo that have been scouted from nowhere, why can't we just for once, especially with a coach that develops players, actually give a couple of slots to said young players and see what they can do when given opportunities off the bench and cup games? So for me, the fourth spot in that midfield for the two, I'd give to a young player, which is why I'm not keen on keeping Loftus-Cheek, even though thank you for your services. Why I'm not keen on keeping Kante, thank you for your services. Why I'm not keen, I'm not really too bothered about the Kovacic situation because he's been injury prone and he doesn't want to be here. And if you don't want to be here, I'm happy for you to go. I'm not going to keep you against your will. And I'm happy for Havertz to go, and I'm happy for, I'm not happy because I did like Felix, but I understand Felix going, and I'm not going to cry about it because I actually think these last remaining slots should be given to a couple of these guys. Loan out one, keep two, something like that. So for me, it can be done. Long term, my point earlier on in the stream stands that even if these guys start to perform off the bench, how are you going to handle that? Because now you've got big money starters and you've also got young, talented players that are performing, and there's only a few slots. How are you going to rotate all these guys for the next 10 years? It's not going to happen. At some point, someone's going to get annoyed with the game time if they're all doing what they should be doing. But that concern stands because they're all the same age and it's a problem. But for next season, in terms of player development, integration, and improvement with a coach that develops young players, I give him therefore young players. You give a little bit of experience here and there, sprinkle it around the team, of course. But the reason why Poch is here is to develop players and to take them to a world-class level for either profit or for a title win. It needs to be for a title win. I don't want to see young players that we've developed now end up sold for profits, because that would scream that the ownership is more interested in the money and the finances than they are in actually winning. So that's my stance on that at the moment. And also because I'm not convinced about. Obviously, you've got Ugarte, and then if he was to get injured, who do you have to be defensive minded in your midfield and anchor it? And again, if you don't double up in that position, then you might be playing someone out of position like a Santos. You're asking maybe a Santos to sit, or you're asking one of these Carney to sit. That's not fair because they're not meant to be sitters. So I don't want to see people played out of their comfort zone in their first season. 70 mil for Kai would be bankers from Madrid. I have no idea how much Madrid are going to pay. I have no idea how much Madrid are going to pay, but we shall see. We shall see. If the interest is actually real, which it is, I think for me, you'd be looking at minimum 40 to 50 million. I think that's kind of the ballpark that I'd expect because there is still quality in the player. There is still value in the player. He's not a bum. He's not, not dead wood, so to speak. It's not a Bakayoko. No disrespect. He's not completely finished on the market. There is clear interest, and there's still people that have, the opinion that the quality will come back or he'll play the way he should. But for me, you're not going to get what we bought him for. I will be doing the Spanish Grand Prix tomorrow. Yes, on Track GP on that channel, so I will be there for that. I did a little bit of a response on the qualifying. I saw the qualifying highlights; they were incredible. A lot happened there. Very, very entertaining qualifying with Perez and Russell outside the top 10, Leclerc 19th. A couple of mistakes being made on the flat, on a wet spot in the turn 5s, and some good positioning on the grid. I think 6 different teams in the top 6. So I'm looking forward to the race tomorrow. But on Track GP as well, you'll find me on that watch along. Let's see what else is being said. Let's see. What do you think of the goalkeeper situation? So there was a tweet that went out on the goalkeeper. Ugarte chose Chelsea. It's closed. That's another tweet that's literally just gone out from another, I think, Portuguese outlet. So there's a lot of all the Portuguese outlets are throwing it now, it seems, on the TL. Nkuku's also scored for Leipzig in the final against Frankfurt. Someone did ask me if I'm going to do the watch along. I said I wasn't, and I'm not. And this is why, I guess, because look what's happened. Breaking news has bounced in Chelsea land. So let's see. Saeed is going crazy on the TL. He's not happy. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of how I'd manage the situation in midfield. I do think Caicedo could be incredible for us. I don't want to compare him to Kante because what Kante did in his career is it's legendary. Kante was the best player at what he did in the world, and that was clear when he played against Liverpool in the Super Cups, clear when he played Real Madrid, etc. So Caicedo coming in doesn't hit Kante level, but there's potential for him to get to Kante levels, I think. He's very young. He's only 21. I don't know where Kante was when he was 21, probably in second or third division in France. It's a bit of a late come up for him, and he, done a madness on the world stage. I think Caicedo's got the potential to be that kind of player for us, which I would like. So, yeah, I'm definitely, I've watched a lot more of Caicedo than I had of Ugarte, and yeah, I think Caicedo it would be a great signing for us. And I don't think there's a player, even the young players that we have, I don't think there's a player that like Caicedo. So I don't think it's a straight fight between them because I don't think they do the same job, so to speak. You talk about getting goals into this team, though. Andre Santos has a knack for getting goals. So that's good to know. Hopefully Andre Santos can be developed and can be used because it seems like the guy knows how to pop up in the right times, attack the box, go up for those headers for set pieces. I've seen loads of different goals from him. So that's good. And the same applies to brother Quesadilla as well. Cassidy seems to be, able to chip in with goals as well. So there's some goal scoring midfielders potentially in the ranks here. So that's another reason to potentially keep them because this team needs goals. And if people are able to finish from midfield, then that's fantastic. Can't be turning that down. Can't be overlooking that. So yeah, good to see. Let's see. What else is being said? So I'm just going to quickly go through the last few comments before I wrap up. We've got 70 million for Kai. Would be bonkers. It would. I think I might have read that one out. Appreciate the super chat. What do you think of Mudrik's potential? Again, just like Ugarte, actually probably even more so than Ugarte. I really don't know Mudrik like that. I said that when he signed. And I was actually quite annoyed when he signed because I thought we was paying 100 million initial. You guys remember that stream, maybe, if you were here for that. And thankfully, it was a 62 initial and 88 overall with add-ons included, so it wasn't so crazy. But I've only seen glimpses of him before Chelsea. He was more of an Arsenal target, so I wasn't really even paying attention to him. Didn't watch any full matches of him. So I don't know the ceiling. He does look like a threat. There's definitely things he needs to improve. His shooting has been very woeful since he came here. He does like to do a little reverse pass here. He does like to have a little dribble and a little combination here and there. But it's early days. Next season, we'll judge him more. So we'll see what happens with Mudryk. I just give the trust to the board and the recruitment team that they've got that one right. Because it was a new recruitment team that did hire, that came in for him and actually signed him. It wasn't Bowie and Egbali just moving mad in the summer window and hijacking, and it was actually a recruitment team that was in place when he was signed. So I'm assuming they have done their homework on him, otherwise their jobs are looking precarious. They're looking wild. So we'll see. But yeah, hopefully world-class potential. But we'll see. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Okay, let's see what else is being said. Well, if you're playing the 4-2-3-1, then no, you're not getting them all in. You're getting Nkuku probably in the 10, just behind the striker. You're getting Enzo, Ugarte, Caicedo, 2 out of the 3 in that starting 11, and you've got an option off the bench. Now, Ugarte is coming from the Portuguese league, might need time to integrate, might need time to acclimatize to the new settings, the new country. So him being maybe on the bench or being rotated in and given time is not something I'd be against. We've seen Klopp do it many a time with all of those new players that came in, basically, apart from maybe you could say Diaz. He's given them time to be integrated. And even Pep gives players a whole season to potentially not be at it and then integrate them. So I don't think we need to be in such a rush. I think a lot of the time when we sign a new player, we just want them immediately in the team, immediately in the first 11. That may not always be best for them. Sometimes they need time to actually find their feet, sometimes find a house, you know, not living in a hotel, etc., and then put them in the limelight before people judge them. So I'm okay with that scenario where Caicedo is actually, you know, Premier League, he's passed the test, he's played in this country now, he understands the situation and he understands the tempo and the speed of the game, etc., and he can go straight in. So yeah, I think for me that makes sense. And then, like I said, you've got the youngsters kind of filling in outside of that because we're not in Europe. So I definitely, once again, err on the side of caution to not build your squads too big. And this is why I don't even want to go astray with Hazard or go astray with Messi. I've seen that link from some crazy report today. I'm very tunnel vision right now. 2 midfielders max. And I had to be convinced on more than one. But because of all the outgoings, if Gallagher leaves, Mount leaves, Kai leaves, Ruben leaves, Cover leaves, you know, all these guys leave, then fine. The 2, I can just about, I get the logic. The striker and the goalkeeper. After that, I would close the incomings. I don't care who comes up on the market. I don't give a damn. I'm closing the incomings from that moment. And for me, after that, it's just sales and just let that team marinate, let them cook, let them develop, let them get coached. Because if you put this squad out there next season and it's too big, I don't know. Lessons are not getting learned. Silva's already come out and said it. Do you know what I'm saying? Silva's already come out and publicly said it in an interview. I don't know how many more of these players have to come out and say, do not sign too many players before we listen. I don't give a damn. I'm very tunnel vision. These are the positions and that's it. If anything else extra happens, I'm not. It's none of my business. I'm not involved. I'm not involved. Let's see what else is being said. Would you give Amari Hutchinson a chance next season? There's a fight for that last winger spot. That's why I'm not entertaining winger conversation. We've got Mudryk, we've got Madueke, we have Sterling. And then if you're going to have 4 wingers for the season for 2 positions, then I give that 4th position again to a young player. You have Diego Marina from Benfica B team that we've signed that's coming in July for free. We have Amari Hutchinson. We have, I think there's another player that I'm forgetting. Obviously, Tudor is leaving on a free, I think, couldn't agree a new contract, which is a shame for the 18-year-old. And I'm sure there's another name now I'm forgetting. But the point is we have young wingers that are competing and fighting for places. And I'd let them do that. And Nkuku's just got an assist. And it appears that he has maybe potentially decided the German Cup final. 2-0 to Leipzig, 88 minutes. Looks like it's done and dusted. I'm going to try and see if I can get this goal somewhere on Twitter. Maybe I can watch it. Listen, he joint top Bundesliga goal scorer. Obviously, it's been a great season for him. He did have a 2 to 3 month injury as well. And he still managed to come back to form. He's there, you know, blowing balloons. And I don't know if he's going to be allowed to do that celebration over here. I actually hope he can, but he can't. I don't know. 23rd goal of the season, gave Leipzig the lead in the 71st minute. And obviously now he's got the assist. I really hope that he can replicate this over here. I have confidence that he can. Now that I've seen what Werner and Havertz have become, which is quite at times weak, whether it's minded but most of the time physically, because let's be honest, Werner really did try his best and he put a smile on and I appreciate that. And Havertz, listen, he's just a bit too windy. I'm going to call him windy. Going through the motions kind of, you know, occasional player. I think Nkuku's more Premier League built. I think he can handle the physical battle a bit more. I think he's got a turn of pace about him, but he's better in tight spaces than Werner ever was. Werner in tight spaces was a calam. It was an absolute calamity. It was an eyesore. This guy he's made for running into open spaces. He is a gazelle. He cannot handle the tight spaces and the half spaces, but I think Nkuku can. So hopefully we get this one right and he actually plays to the level that we've been seeing. I am excited about Nkuku. It's a shame that we didn't see him at the World Cup because I think that would have been great, but he was obviously injured. So yeah, it would be interesting to see. But listen, we gotta see him here. We see what he does here. But hopefully it's gonna go well. So I'm gonna wrap up, guys. It's been a great stream. It's been a great show. Yeah, he definitely got a bit of strength to him for sure. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But there's Bundesliga tax, of course. People are got PTSD, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you for having it, because I've got it too. But yeah, we're gonna wrap up. Big up your damn selves. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I think we may have actually hit 52k. We have hit 52k. So big up, much appreciated. I will be back tomorrow with some sort of content, probably a video, probably not a live, but probably a video, unless something happens. If something breaks, then I have the capacity to go live. It can happen. But until next time, smash up the like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. In a bit, people. Peace.
Perfect.